All right, what is up, everybody? I would like to welcome you back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. We have a very special guest today. I would like to welcome Cole Greashaber, like lightsaber. I said that right, Cole?
You sure did. Yeah.
Cole, welcome to the show today, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So, Cole, you are a member of CrossFit Lee's Summit.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I want to give a shout out to CrossFit Lee Summit, all the owners and the members over there. We're gonna pick Cole's brain today. And you've been involved with CrossFit for about 10 years now?
I have. I like walked into the CrossFit gym for the first time. It was like eighth grade, and it was like my parents were like, if you really don't like football, basketball, baseball, or track, like, how about you just do an on ramp at CrossFit Elite Summit with us? And I was like, okay. And, I ended up like starting CrossFit doing high school sports at the same time.
Hmm.
I really didn't, I don't think I went to the gym more than once a week until I was a junior in high school.
Wow.
So it took a few years to actually get me in there. I was always one of those where it was like, there's no way they can do that. That's
Hmm.
not fair. And then, you change the way that you live your life. You start slowly integrating, little things that
Hmm.
make performance a little bit easier. And you're like, wow, maybe they're not cheating. Maybe you just need to do things the right way and you can do it too. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like there's little things that make a big difference when you compound them over time, right? Whether that is your
sure.
nutrition, your sleep, your training regimen and schedule. It's like if you do these little things right and you do them for a really long time, odds are you're probably going to have some pretty good success in that area.
It'll add up. That is for sure. Yeah. I've gone from, shoot, I think I was maybe 170 pounds when I was a junior in high school. And I was like, man, I want to make the CrossFit games as a teenager. And by the time the games rolled around that year, I was 190, So like
Really?
7 months later, I had already made a pretty big transformation. So if you do the little things, it'll add up short or long period of time. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. I mean, I think that's what dedication and that's what, having a little bit of consistency in your life pays off. And that's what it looks like.
for sure.
Love that. All right. So Cole, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about today was rest and recovery, because this is something that I don't think I do the best job of. And it was something that I was actually asked about a couple weeks ago on an interview. And they said, hey, rest and recovery, how do you do it? And I said, I don't know. I said, I don't actually really have a good answer for that or anything that I think anybody would find any value in actually incorporating into their life. So I think this comes from us wanting to continually create, wanting to continually improve and make progress. And one of the things that you said was this idea of someone working harder than you, right? And I think that is when I read that, I was like, yeah, I completely understand that feeling. Like that's a very evident thought in my head a lot of the time. So I was curious as to how do you handle the idea that there is someone out there working harder than you?
I mean, I think it hurts everyone, in the field that I'm in. I want to be the hardest worker and the
Hmm.
toughest guy out there. But at the end of the day, I think what we all have to realize is we all have 24 hours.
Hmm.
And if we spend, the same amount of time in the gym, how else can they, take advantage of their 24 hours? Maybe they're getting more sleep than you. Maybe they're eating better than you. Maybe they have the opportunity to take naps throughout the day so that they can optimize their performance even more. So there's just so many, different little things that you can do to, just get little bursts out of yourself,
Hmm.
because you can tell yourself all you want, I'm going to, RPE 10 out of 10, every single day. I'm just going to get it. But in reality, the best thing that you can do is keep things simple and, consistency wins. So
Hmm. What are some of those little, you could say, consistency hacks or performance hacks that you have incorporated into your life?
I think the big thing for me is like all of my days, training days look almost identical, like get to the gym around 8:30 every single morning, train until 10:30, 11. Depends how long my Metcon is or,
Mhm.
what exactly goes on during that time. And then we usually get back to the gym around 12:45 to 1. And, same thing, done about 3 o'clock. And I try to
Mhm.
get a nap in between and some good quality food
Mhm.
and, fast digesting sugars right after I'm done working out. And that's, rinse and repeat for 5 days a week. And then Thursdays we call it active recovery, but some days like a longer, pretty strenuous bike ride.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's swimming, just depends on time of the year.
Mhm.
And then we got one day where I attempt to be as lazy as possible. I'm just really trying to be a potato. I'm like, if I can just take less than 2,000 steps today, I'll be happy. So,
So
yeah.
when you have that lazy day, how do you like does that ever cause you any stress or any anxiety when
No.
you have no, you're
Oh,
good with
no.
that?
Yeah, 100%. I know a lot of people that are like, I just need to continuously do more and do more and do more. But in reality, when we compete at, semifinals or, the quarterfinals that are
Mhm.
coming up, like we're only doing 5 or 6 workouts.
Mhm.
So a lot of this comes down to, can you improve upon the things that are this weekend? We're not
Mhm.
necessarily training for a marathon. We're training for 5 or 6 different, call them sprints, call them
Mhm.
just different time intervals. So I don't necessarily think that training 6 or 7 hours a day right now would help me win the CrossFit games. Like I don't think that's how that's done.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I literally saw a post this morning that said sleep for 8 hours, not six, work for X hours, not this, eat this. And it was like sometimes we might have been conditioned to do everything in extreme. And if we do everything in extreme, we're going to get crazy good results. When really, if we end up doing everything in extreme, we actually end up depleting ourselves and hurting our natural abilities, and we actually end up going backwards, right? And it basically said you're not a machine, you're a human. Right? Like
right.
right, like make sure you find the things that work in your human life that are going to help you get to where you want to go, and it's not 10xing some area of your life where it's like, all right, I'm not going to sleep for 5 days and I'm just going to work.
Right. And I mean, like schedule that I've came up with, it took like, it took some time to where this
Mhm.
felt normal and that this is what I like. And, this is kind of just what I've fallen down to and what works.
Mhm.
I definitely feel like, there's some people that, need a training partner or which I would be open to in the
Mhm.
future, of course. But currently with what I have right now, I just love maximizing myself
Mhm.
and putting myself first for 6, 7, sometimes 8 hours of the day to start,
Mhm.
and then I can worry about the other part of my life afterwards.
I love that saying, maximizing yourself.
I gotta, or I'm not gonna be qualified for another CrossFit Games. It's a very competitive field, and I just want to continue to progress and make the most out of myself. So.
Mhm. Cole, I'm curious, what is your diet like? So I'm a big nutrition guy. I love food, and I'm always curious about it. But I'm just curious about like, what does your daily diet look like?
Yeah, so I think the best way to describe it is like to start the day because normally right now we have like lifting in the morning,
Mhm.
then some accessory, then metcon, then accessory. So what I like to do to start the day is I usually get in about 1,100 calories before I even come in the gym.
Mhm.
So that usually is like a bagel, muffin with some butter, and
Mhm.
then a protein bar and like a fruit smoothie with blueberries, pineapple, banana, strawberries, and a Greek yogurt. And then 30 minutes go by or so, I'm shaving, I'm just,
Mhm.
getting ready. And then bam, I'm at the gym 30,
Mhm.
40 minutes later. After that, usually the only thing that will stay down is like bagels,
Mhm.
muffins, rice, chicken, which the rice and chicken do take a while to digest. So those are the
Mhm.
first things that go down. I mentioned the fast digesting sugars earlier.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of Formula One and Ignition from First Form, so that's
Mhm.
a way that I recover.
Mhm.
I just feel like the fast digesting protein combined with the ignition will, help me with my electrolytes. So that's just huge
Mm-hmm.
for me. And like just, it's very helpful in the recovery process. And then after that, I will train again. And then we got more fast digesting sugars as well. So more Formula One, more ignition, and then more rice and chicken. And then after that, things can get, more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
From a macronutrient perspective, though,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 5,000 to 5,500 compared on, depending on the time of the year.
Yeah.
And then usually looking at 50% carbs, 30% protein, 20% fat.
Okay.
We try to keep it pretty healthy, but
Mm-hmm.
after that second session, rice, or not rice, pasta, potatoes,
Yeah.
perfect bars, eggs, which I wish I could eat in the morning, but my
Mm-hmm.
stomach is not
Mm-hmm.
having it. Lots of stuff that I wish I could eat throughout the day. I just push it to the end of the day. That's kind
Mm.
of how that goes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Nicole, I can't help but to think that a lot of the stuff that you work with, I mean, whether it comes to your strict training schedule that you've walked us through, whether it comes to your very calculated diet that you just walked us through, there's got to be a lot of mental resilience and a lot of mental, whether you want to call it toughness, grit, fitness that goes into making these decisions that aren't that easy to make, right? So it comes down to these certain areas of our life where it's like, no, this is the thing that's important to me, and this is what I'm going to do about it, right? And it might not be necessarily the popular thing that other people are doing, right? But this is what's important to me. So I was curious, what is the mental framework that you use to make decisions that might be a little harder for other people to make?
The way I look at it as like this is my job, and in order to make my job easier, that means that certain foods or other things like it's probably best that those get pushed to like the last like workout before a rest day. So
Mhm.
Saturday night, that's when those things can come out. But it's like this is currently what I do for a living, and I'm
Mhm.
very healthy and happy, but in order to maximize myself in the gym and continue to progress, there's just certain things that I probably should not eat certain times of the year.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, coming off the off season into the new season, there's definitely,
Mhm.
cravings like, man, I wish I could eat that, but it makes it that much more worth it when, the season, comes to an end and I get a week or two to, decompress.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel like for me, it's just like it makes my job harder to have those things. So there's just, I wouldn't say no point, but it's like,
Mhm.
why would I make my life harder than it needs to be? Like, just,
Mhm.
I feel like consistency wins, like I
Oh,
said
yeah.
earlier. And it's
Mhm.
like, if this is my schedule, like I almost don't even get those cravings most of the time.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
because my body's just used to the same exact thing every single day, which
Mhm.
I know some people can't do, or, like they need like, variants and, like other things. But
Mhm.
it's like, those are just like certain variables that make training harder for me. So I just don't
Mhm.
do that.
Now, were you always somebody who took the training and the preparation as serious as you're walking us through right now?
I remember I was a gymnast growing up from 3 to 13.
Mhm.
I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I was like, man, we went out to eat, the night before gymnastics meet, and I didn't feel great the next day, which, I bet that is so common for kids and
Mhm.
sports growing up. You're out of town with your family, basketball tournament, football game, whatever, and you feel awful. And it's because of, what you ate the night before. And, like I think it started then was like, why would
Mhm.
I do that? Like,
Yeah.
I did not come here to vacation. I came here to, compete at gymnastics meet. And I just, did not perform at the level that I wanted to. How can I fix that? I think it
Mhm.
pretty much started there was like, this is probably what you can do to change that.
Mm. I love that. It's almost like you got a result that you didn't want, so then you went and looked back at the behavior and said, "What did I do to get that result? And what can I now change with the behavior to get a better result that I want?"
Exactly. I mean, like we do these gymnastics routines, at the time, like,
Mhm.
in the gym, same exact equipment, same exact thing. And, like there's just little variance on how well you did each time. And
Mhm.
then you get a completely different result. It's these things happen. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's where I stand with that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, one of the things that I think people might even be thinking about, I know I'm thinking about this, is kind of how do we handle discomfort, right? Like you talk about your diet, you talk about exercise, you talk about when you were 8 or 9 and you felt this discomfort, and it's like, all right, here's how I changed, right? Here's what I decided to do when I felt this discomfort in my life. Um, One of the things that you had mentioned about was getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Which I think a lot of people say, but I don't know if a lot of people actually do it. And I don't know if a lot of people actually know what that means. And I was curious about, from your perspective, how do you get through or at least maintain that headspace of being comfortable while you're uncomfortable?
I feel like it's such a common saying that like it should almost be outlawed. No, I'm just
Yeah.
but I think the big thing is like it kind of goes back to like, someone's always working harder than you because a
Mhm.
lot of the times that it's time to, get really uncomfortable, like it's usually not like, of course, I push myself past my limits, or I try to in every
Mhm.
single session. But the ones that really, hit hard are the ones right before rest day, ironically, because
Mhm.
that's your body really needs that. And it's like, hey, I didn't, waste $4 or $5 in gas to come up to the gym and
Mm.
half-ass this. Like I really want to get everything out of my training session. So let's not waste the gas. Let's not waste my time here. Let's just go
Mhm.
ahead and give this literally my all or 105%. And, we'll be good by Monday. It'll be
Mhm.
fine. If not, then, we'll figure it out from there. But, you only came in here for one thing. So let's just get that
Mhm.
done the right way. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about those things. Whenever it's time to get uncomfortable and, there's that opportunity to push the pace or kind of settle down. I've kind of learned, especially in training right now, when I'd say like there's very little consequence if I do blow up and things don't go well.
Mhm.
Like it's just a training session. Like now for the future what your capabilities are that day,
Mhm.
a different result. So
Cole, that is it's I like how you said that, how like it's a consequence, right? It's just what happens right now, right? It's almost like I I remember having this idea in my head once that said, whenever I get really stressed about something, it's because I'm thinking of like the worst possible outcome. And even if the worst possible outcome was to happen, I still would be okay.
right, I feel like you just have to worry about what's right in front of you, like the next
Mhm.
rep or next, minute of your life. And if you don't worry about that, then you're losing a lot of potential value, you know?
Yeah. Right. Like just kind of focusing on what is, that's actually why my shirt, it says be here. It's
Yeah,
because I actively try to do that, right? I actively try to be like, all right, I can't think about what could happen in a week or a month from now. Hell, I don't even know if I'm going to be here in a week or a month from now, right? Not to be grim or anything, but nonetheless, I can just focus on what I am literally doing right now. And that's it.
100%. You can't control what's happened 6 months ago or what's going to happen in 6 months, but you can worry about right now. So that's
Hmm.
what we.
Yeah. So Cole, there's there's two more things that I wanted to ask you about, but one of the things I was very when you said this, I was so happy you said this in the intake form when you talked about your inner child. And that is something that I actually, so on my cell phone here, my lock screen is actually me and my grandpa. And it's
Oh,
me as a little kid, right? So that is my inner child is right there. And when you said that, I was like, all right, like that's a hell of an answer right there, right? Because there's not a lot of people who I think would say, how do I get through really hard things? Oh, I think of an inner child, or I think of like the little kid within me. And I think I think it's a beautiful answer. I think it's a very human answer. And so I was curious about when you say that, not letting down your inner child, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's like I've always wanted to be, an athlete. It's like
Mhm.
I didn't grow up doing football, baseball, or basketball, like the big three of,
Mhm.
North America sports. And it's like, but I always wanted to, be an athlete. Like since
Mhm.
I was 4, 5, 6 years old, and it's like no matter what, I want to just not let myself down. Like the kid
Mhm.
that was on the playground having fun, like that's always what I wanted to do. So let's just continue to do that and maximize my opportunities.
Mhm. Does that help in the way that you talk to yourself?
Definitely when things get uncomfortable,
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier, I definitely do think of myself. I'm like, would he back down? Like, he
Mhm.
wasn't afraid of anything. So what changed? Like why are you so scared all of a sudden?
Mm.
So I feel like just seeing myself, in that position, it's like you really just don't want to let that person down.
Yeah. For those people who are listening who might struggle with that internal voice, right? Or that internal critic. And one of the things that you just said right there, you said, what changed, right? If you were to define what could have changed for people to actually allow themselves to speak bad to themselves, what do you think that change could have been?
I think the biggest thing is having like other variables in your life. And I don't think anyone wants to hear that, but
Mhm.
adults have a lot of responsibilities, and then you get to work on yourself after.
Mhm.
Like there are certain things that you have to do, and then after you do all those things, now you get to work on yourself.
Mhm.
Now this is what you get to work with. So that's why it is so challenging, I feel like. I'm
Mhm.
very grateful that with my career I get to spend a lot of time on myself in the gym and
Mhm.
outside the gym. And I feel like the big thing is just prioritizing yourself and your mental health to
Mhm.
be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's interesting actually thinking about taking time to make sure that you're good, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
the amount of time, like, especially on those rest days where it's like, man, I was really lazy today. It's like, no, I think you need to recharge.
Mm,
You just need that time in order to maximize the rest of your week.
yeah.
That's just how I feel like I'm able to function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowing down to go faster. That's the way that I like to think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of top CrossFit athletes, and their significant others are like, man, if they're not working out, they are so lazy. And it's like just this funny thing. It's not like a negative connotation, but it's like, yeah, if we're not going all out, we
Hmm.
are, let's find a chair. There's no reason to stand up.
Yeah.
So we're
It's
like
fun.
always in go mode.
Yeah.
So
It's funny you say that. I completely agree with that because I remember being in like in even in high school and in college playing football and watching like the high school football players and the college football players, my buddies, we'd walk around at like the slowest pace. We'd wear sandals to school, right? Like we were like people probably thought like those are the laziest kids in school, but really it's like no, we're actually the athletes of the school. It's just we're training all the time, and when we don't have to do this, we want to go the complete opposite direction and actually just chill out as much as we can.
yeah, it's time to decompress so that we can, get back to 100% as soon as
Mhm.
possible. This kind of reminds me of like Christian McCaffrey. Have
Yeah,
you seen any of like his podcasts or just like how his dad raised him, if you
I
will?
didn't.
Like just
So I'm a big Christian McCaffrey fan, though. I'm actually like I follow him at Stanford and at the Panthers and then on the 49ers, but I haven't heard what how his dad raised him though.
just very similar to what you were saying, where it's like, he went to a private school,
Hmm.
and from my understanding, he had to wear like tight clothing even on
Hmm.
game days. And his dad was like, that's a little heavy on your legs. Sweats would definitely be better. Just like like raised his kid from birth to like just maximize himself, if you will.
Yep.
Like no sodas, going to bed at 8 o'clock at night at, a very young age, just certain, things
Mhm.
to where he made sure his son got the most of his self, whether
Yeah.
he wanted to or not. He just ingrained those things for him.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really cool. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of things, but you'll have to check it out because he is super impressive work ethic and
Oh
as
yeah.
an all around human being. But that got instilled in him from a young age, which is so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I heard something a couple days ago that said self-discipline is the highest form of self-love, which I
100%.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
was kind of interesting. Like giving yourself the discipline to maximize yourself is like the best thing that we can do as a human being, as each of us.
It's the most fulfilling, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. All right, Cole, last question here that I ask every guest. And real quick, before I ask this question, where can people follow you, find you? Where can they root you on in all of your contests? Where can they find you?
So on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, it's just my first and last name. So Cole Greashaber, no
Uh,
caps, no spaces. So
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
that's where you can find me.
All right, awesome. At Cole Greashaber, and we will be following you with all the contests and all the records you set over the next couple of years.
All right, I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, so here, the last question here. What's a secret that you know that has helped you live a smarter and stronger life?
Putting yourself in a position to succeed by focusing, on yourself, like we mentioned. I feel
Mhm.
like, a lot of the way culture is right now, there's so many responsibilities that everyone has, when in reality, the most fulfilling thing you can do is invest in yourself.
Mm,
Like there's, so many things you got to do throughout the day. And then like I said, we got to worry about you,
mhm.
when in reality the most important thing when you look back on your life is how you can maximize yourself and the people around you. So
Wow.
yeah, that's I think what you should worry about.
Maximize yourself. I love that. I absolutely love that the way that you kind of articulated that. And I agree. I think it's something that, we've been raised to not be selfish. And I think we sometimes confuse that with actually making sure that we're okay and making sure that we're good.
Right. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day, and we got to maximize those and take care of certain things, but we should also take some time to worry about ourselves as well.
Yeah, I agree, man. Well, Cole, thank you so much for your time today and walking through the mental side of CrossFit and everything else that we covered. I really appreciate it, man. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, DJ.
Yeah, you're welcome. And everybody who tuned into today's episode, thank you so much for your time and your energy. And as always, always super grateful if you'd like, rate, subscribe to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. And until next time, keep doing hard things and keep getting smarter and stronger. And we'll talk to everybody soon.